So for this installation, you're going to need a T25 ratchet or wrench. Either one will work. You're also going to need some wire cutters and a drill bit that is about as wide as the wires, which is about 3/16. Okay, so the first thing that has to be done is remove this whole section right in here. So this should be unscrewed. And then you can pull these pieces apart, set them aside. Okay, next thing you have to do, there's only 3 screws that are holding on your emblem. Now, this isn't the original emblem. This emblem is actually my prototype emblem that I've been having on here for 8 months now to see and make sure that it works correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this one and put the newer version in. And there's 3 screws. There's 2 on top and then 1 in the back. So as you can tell, the only hole that you really need to drill is going to be a small hole right here to pass your wires through, unless you can find another way to get the power in that direction, or you can go the other direction, but I found that this is the easiest direction to go in. Once you drill the holes, you just pass the wire right through there. And what I did was I passed the wire all through underneath here. So the wires, I had them connected right here, and I just kept going in this direction underneath, had them pop out over here. Now I decided to put one of these little ends on it and unscrew this one here for a ground. You can hook it up to whatever you want as long as you can ground it. And then I continued the power underneath this assembly right here. And this assembly is actually very easy to take off. You could probably do it with your fingernails, but if not, a screwdriver. There's a little gap right here. Just pop it up and it comes loose. Same thing right here. Pop it up, comes loose. There's going to be 3 of them. And this piece, there's also going to be a tube right here. You just undo that tube, and to take this part off, there's a little latch right here. So you just stick your finger underneath here, pull the latch, that comes loose, and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And then the whole thing comes off. Now right under here you have a fuse box, which is where I ran the power to. Now Tesla, in a lot of forums from what I have read, you don't want to go poking around taking apart a whole different fuses, because you could mess up your ECU. Things won't work correctly if you take out the wrong one. We found that the third one from the bottom right here, the third one, if you pull that one out, that one actually goes to the ECU, and then you plug in my replacement one, and this is basically a tap. And what you want to do is you want to stick it in there like that, and then put the fuse that came in with mine in there, and make sure you put it in correctly. And what I did was I drilled a little hole right on the edge right here, right on the edge. You got to be careful that you only get the lip, don't get down further into it, so you can pass the wire through there and then put your cap back on. If you do that, you'll be able to put everything back correctly. Now by doing this, anytime your computer is updating, your car is updating, the front T will glow as it's updating, which is actually kind of cool. But that's just one of those features that the only time the front light's going to come on is if you have the brake pressed and your ECU lights up, your screen. Okay, so this light right here is pretty neat. It has 2 different sets of wires. The reason why there's 2 different sets of wires is because one set of wire controls the top part, the other set of wire controls the bottom. So you want to make sure that when you run the wires, you run both sets. And then when you get to the end over there, you put them together, just like this. You might need to strip the ends. Put positive with positive, negative with negative. Then you grab them. So what you're going to do is you're going to pass them through the little hole you just made. Pull the wires through. Now you can cut these to whatever length you want. There's plenty of wire in the packaging to attach these together. Just keep pulling the wire, and as you can tell, once you get to here, the holes line up perfectly. Now once I pass the wires through, I like to go ahead and just resecure the screws to hold it back into place. Of course, the third one goes back here. And then you just retighten the screws. Now these are self-tapping screws. So as they screw into the plastic, it will tighten up. Okay, once you got your screws on, then you just pass your wire through here, tuck it in along the side. Let it go in there. Now, myself personally, I decided to stop right about here. You can go all the way with it. It has plenty of wire to reach all the way to the fuse box, but I don't think you really need to. So, what you would do at that point is grab your wire cutters and cut to about right here. There we go. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you want to go ahead and strip these wires, and once you've stripped them, you go ahead and get the red on red, twist them together, and you get your little connector right here. Super easy to use. You slide it right through there. Got to make sure that your wire is long enough to touch that little silver tip. Screw it on. Make sure it's pretty secure. And then you do the same thing with the other end. You're going to want to go into the yellow wire. Until you're secure. And then you're going to repeat the process with the black and the black one right over here. Okay, so I do have to make a note that whenever you're doing this, you want to make sure that you actually hook up the fuse last. I know mine was already hooked up, but that's because I already had one installed. I should have disconnected it. I know I'm going to get messages about that, but I didn't. So the last thing to do now, that once all the wiring is complete, is to go ahead and test it out. So that was the last step, and there it is. It lights up. All you have to do is step on the brake and it should light up for you. Once you've tested that it works, all you then have to do then is do everything in the reverse order and put everything back together. And you are done.